Alright everyone, this is Dan over Paintball.com here with two beautiful pieces. If you don't know it already, these are PTP microcockers. These cockers came exactly like this from the factory. The red one is 100% original factory setup. The turquoise, or green as people like to call it, maybe people think it's blue but it's more of a turquoise color, is about 98% original. Alright, so let's take these out of the case. I'm going to go over the turquoise one first. Alright, so this turquoise one, I'm picking to go over first because it is serial number 4827. And as you can see, it has a lot of really interesting qualities. So, let me get the shroud off really quick. Alright, so to find them with the matching shroud, must have for collectors, but these were factory half-blocks, and that's the big specialty with them. We'll get back to this a little bit later, but as you can see, we have a composite frame. That trigger shoe is one of the few things that's not original. We have a very short barrel, all WGP pneumatics up front, nothing but business. Biggest things that make this the lightest cocker ever produced are the half block, saves a lot of weight. The composite frame is actually a lot lighter than aluminum frames, and there's no regulator. Yet these are very surprisingly consistent. Okay, so let's get back to a little bit more about these. So the really cool thing about these is that the bolt comes out just like a regular cocker's bolt, but it's anodized to match. That is extremely beautiful. That's how you tell what condition they're in. This is in near flawless condition because it has no wear on the inside and the outside. And this thing is just in excellent condition. They're extremely hard to find. And let's get over to the red one, and we're going to go back to both of them together. Alright, so the red one is a little bit more rare. The red and black, red knights as they call it, scheme is a lot harder to find. This one's 100% original with the matching trigger shoe, and it even has the little clip on the pull pin. Let's go ahead and get this shroud off. As you can, we'll get to the differences between these generations in a second. Alright, so let's see here. This one is serial number, I believe it's 55633. A little bit harder to read. The milling actually cut off some portions of the numbers. As you can see, again, same exact setup. These guns are extremely beautiful. Now here's the really interesting part that I want to go over with you guys. Let me get the case out of the way here. So there is roughly 1,000 serial numbers separating these, and yet there are major differences. So I'd be very curious to see if anyone can pick out some of these differences before I say them, but let me just zoom in to give you guys the top and bottom to give you guys a chance. Okay, so here's the red knights, and here we are down to the turquoise. Alright, biggest things. Barrel. There's a big difference in the barrel. These were factory. They didn't come with extra barrels, so it's not like this is a kit. But more interestingly, take a look at this. So, big difference here, focus this in, is that the back blocks are different sizes. Or the half block, back block sleds, I should say. And this results in the bolts being different length too. And just to give you an exact comparison here, sorry for taking these things apart mid-video. It's going to be interesting putting them back together with one hand. Alright, so as you can see, the bolts themselves are exactly equal in functional length up front, but in the back they're actually different lengths. And this goes the same for the sleds. So if you notice, the red is a lot bigger. And I find that really interesting that there's such big changes over only 1,000 serial number difference. Another big difference in size here is if you take a look at both of the front box, one of the bolts is rolling away, you notice that even when they're paired up side to side, the front block of the turquoise is larger. As you can see, both the RAM and the LPR are longer. They're both stock WGP, but they're different in size. So that's extremely interesting. As you can see, they're beautiful on both sides. A few other things, the power tubes are really, really cool on these. So this will actually, you'll have an elbow going up, and it'll actually work as a center feed. But this can actually be removed. So if you ever wanted to convert it to a right feed or a left feed, should you find the parts, you could do it. Another really interesting thing is just the way that these are created, in the sense of the sled. So let me try and get a good image of this. So when you pull back the sled, I'm going to have to put the bolt in for this. Okay, 1 second here. This Red Knight's finish is much harder to come by. So when you pull this back, that's cocked. But what's interesting is, if I can get this in focus here, there's actually, I'll stand it up. There's actually a steel rod here, and it's not, I haven't actually taken one of these apart to take a look at it yet, but it's not like another pump arm. It is not. It's smaller. It's more into the body itself. I actually measured the bodies. They're identical in their length and everything, but the back box and the bolts and the pneumatics are a little bit different, which I find very interesting. As you can see, in the back here we have the beautiful bolt, but we also have an IVG. If you're ever looking to do some fine cocker tuning, I actually picked this trick up from a friend. You take a little acrylic and put it on the IVG, and you do it in one direction. So if this IVG ever moves during play, you'll notice the lines are in a different position. So I like to keep it vertical. If it's to the slanted or horizontal, I know that something's changed. I know that that's the first thing I go to when I change my velocity. These guns I'll take out and play very, very rarely. This thing, I had paint through this last month actually, and I was extremely surprised. The safeties are working on the composite frames, but more importantly, you would think this would be very inconsistent with no rig, correct? It was actually about plus or minus 4 or 5, maybe 6 max, which with old paint I thought was extremely well done for a mechanical autococker with no reg. So not only are these light, but they're actually pretty consistent. Let me just put the bolt back in the other one. And one idea. I actually have not compared the shrouds. They actually look to be the exact same size, but as you can notice, the material on the turquoise one is a little bit more bowed out than the one of the red, which makes sense because it's a little bit longer. But yes, these cockers are extraordinary. To tell you, I picked one up last year, and the turquoise I actually got in a few days ago. Both on eBay. Prices fluctuate a little bit, though. You find them in anywhere from the 400 to 600 range. You could probably pull a little bit higher to the right collector if they were resold. But these are not up for sale. However, I will be putting a few guns up for sale in the future. And also look out for some very, very cool flex parts coming up. I just did a big acquisition with those. I'm going to take some really nice background worthy pictures of these crossed up, etc. And they're going to go back in their case and sit for a while until we take them out, show them off again, or go show them off at the field and play with them. I'm not sure if it's original hosing, but I believe it actually might be because the clamps are still on it. Surprised. Both of these, when they came to me, had been sitting for years. They both work flawlessly. The PTP Micrococker, lightest cocker ever produced. Beautiful anno. surprisingly consistent considering there's no reg, and very, very durable. I mean, the anno finishes on these, I mean, while these were barely used, there's almost no wear on these finishes. I believe this was back when PK Selective was doing their anno jobs. So if you have any questions on these, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer. Same thing with all my videos. Thanks, and have a good night, guys. This is Dan at ArmorPaintball.com. Enjoy.